Well, good morning. And the last neighborhood chat was so popular, I thought I'd do another one. Welcome to the full-time retired RV neighborhood. Rob travels with Dottie here, and I'm going to invite you to have a seat right here. And I'll sit right here, drink my coffee, you drink yours, and we'll have a little talk about retirement RV life. Well, here we are again. Hope you have a nice cup of coffee like me. That's good. Let's see, it's November 12th, 2025, and I'm still here in New Mexico. It's 18 days before I head to Quartzsite. I was thinking about what can I do a video on? And I had this sort of rule in my head for a long time that I shouldn't repeat stuff, but that doesn't make any sense. I've got like 2,000 videos on my channel, and a lot of it is repeating stuff. It's fine. It's okay. Those of you that have heard this stuff before probably don't mind hearing it again. And those of you new, and half the people that watch each one of these videos, according to the statistics, half of them are first-time visiting. So half of you never heard any of this before. So I'm going to tell you about the things that almost no one tells you about retiring on wheels or retiring as an RVer. It's the emotional and practical surprises of full-time life after retirement. So I'm going to share some of my experience with you. The first one is, for most of us, is pretty major downsizing. I mean, I've lived in, at the peak of house size when I worked for Dell in Round Rock, Texas. I had a 5-bedroom house. It was me and a cat and a dog. But I was in a 5-bedroom house, and all the guests, the 4 bedrooms are upstairs with like a great room in the middle. And my bedroom was downstairs, and if I hadn't put my office in the great room upstairs, I probably never would have gone to the second floor. I went to, in Florida, this is in Texas, and I needed to fill the house with furniture. I didn't have furniture for 5 bedrooms. So I had like furniture from my master, but nothing for the guest bedroom. So I got paid a lot when I worked at Dell. So I went to a store called Rooms to Go, where they set up rooms with all the furniture and accoutrements. And I just say, I'll take one of those, one of those, one of those, one of those. Thank you very much. I was probably there for 30 minutes. And they delivered all this furniture, and I set up these guest rooms, and I think they were actually used once or twice. And here's the craziest thing I did. The great room was so big that the only thing that seemed to fit in there was a pool table. So I spent like, I don't know, $2,000 or $3,000 on a pool table, and I don't play pool. I never really did. It got mostly used when my brother and his nephews came by for a visit. They played pool, but I hardly did. But I'm digressing. I accumulated a lot of stuff over the years. And, frivolous stuff like I just talked about, but there were things that meant something to me. Collections of books and books that I loved, and all things that I needed to make a decision about letting go. I live in well, you can see now I'm in a casita because I have a home base now, and the casita is basically next to the RV. It doesn't have any plumbing in it, but it has electricity, heat, and air conditioning. It's my office. You can see a couch there, where in a big screen TV. It's people might refer to it as a man cave, but whatever. But what I travel in is a 21-foot trailer. So there's not much. I had to downsize twice. The first time is when I moved out of that 5-bedroom house. And that was a midlife crisis where I changed careers, decided I didn't want to be an executive anymore, and I went back to school, and that's a whole nother story. But I had to, all that furniture I bought, I had to liquidate it at distressed pricing to get rid of everything. And I went into a much smaller house. And then I went from a house to a 27-foot trailer, and I had to downsize there. Then I went from that 27-foot trailer to the 21-foot. And it wasn't just a 6-foot difference. It was also, it was 8 feet wide, and the one I have is 7 feet wide. So the difference was like 60 square feet less in something that now is about 200 square feet. So big chunk, a lot less storage, both inside and out. And it forces you to really value the things that you own. And I don't mean the easy thing like, if I have a big old diamond, that's coming with me. It's small, it's valuable. If I have something big, like an extra vehicle that I can't take with me, I'm gonna take my time and I'm gonna sell that and hopefully get what it's worth. I'm talking about all the other stuff. Do I give it away? Do I sell it at a, kind of a rummage thing or a garage sale, or do I keep it? And that's emotional. It's not about value. It's about emotion. And I didn't keep any of those books. There's certain books that I wish I still had that I've got some regrets about. There's certain small things that I miss, but for the most part, I ended up being fine with it. But it was an emotional process, letting go of so many of my possessions and thinking about what they really mean to me. What am I? Who am I without a home and without all these possessions? Do I have overall regret? Absolutely not. There's a great amount of freedom in shedding yourself of possessions. Now, that's reversed a little bit because behind where you're sitting are 2 big closets, and on the outside of the casita is a structure attached that's all storage that you can't even walk in. There's so much stuff in there. So I've been a lot more liberal with accumulating stuff. When it was just me in the trailer, if I bought something had to go. I mean, there had to be a trading spaces thing that had to happen. But here I've got storage for stuff that I'm confident I don't need year round. So there's been a little bit of reversal in that. But still, the freedom is, freedom from possessions is a good thing. I don't really, I don't leave stuff here that's of much value. My computers and things of value go with me when I leave, like when I go to quartzsite. And if someone broke in and I lost everything in here, it would not be a big deal. They could be pretty easily replaced. And most of the stuff, frankly, I probably wouldn't replace. I do hang on to stuff that I figure, well, I shouldn't get rid of this because I might need it someday. And I'm sure some of you can relate to that philosophy. The beginning part of it is really kind of like a vacation. I mean, you're in an RV. You're going to campgrounds, you're boondocking, whatever it is your fancy is with your RV, it feels like a vacation. You're retired, you're on the road, you don't have commitments. And that wears off pretty quickly. About about the 6 month mark, you start wondering, okay, what's going to be, who am I going to be, and what's my purpose going to be doing all this? I can't just live the life of Riley every day and lounge around and watch TV and go to tourist spots. And I may not even be able to afford to do the tourist stuff. That's true with many of us. So I'm going to talk about that a little later about what community means after you leave where you're used to having community and you're on the road. There's a lot of spontaneity that is allowed once you start this lifestyle. You can, I have plans to go to Quartzsite. I'm due there on December 1st, but I can leave this afternoon if I want. There's nothing stopping me, no commitments that I've made that's going to bring us a great segue to our next point. Other than I have a couple routine doctor's appointments later this month. I could always reschedule those. But that brings up the point of you do find that you have to balance the spontaneity with stability, like, medical stuff. And there was, I had a pretty serious medical thing this year where I had to have a hip replacement. And that cut down on my spontaneity a little bit. You think? I had my surgery in Yuma while my camper I was boondocking up in Quartzsite. And I've got Medicare, and I've got a robust supplement plan. So nothing I did was really going to cost me any money in this thing. And I talked to the doctor about, well, why don't I go into like a rehab place for a week? There was one like a block away from where the procedure was going to be done. And, I already checked, and they're covered as long as there's a doctor's order. They would take care of me for a week. And he said, you don't need it. I don't write orders for things that aren't needed. I guarantee you'll be up walking with a walker within an hour of the surgery. And I have plenty of people from Quartzsite that have had surgery that live in trailers like you and did just fine. I think that if I were to allow you to do this, you would regret it. You wouldn't have fun in the rehab center for a week. I think you're going to be much more comfortable up in your trailer. When I described my living situation there, where I was parked in a community of people that were supportive, one of them was a nurse. He said, you're going to be much happier doing that. So that's what I did. But spontaneity, I couldn't sit like I am now and saying, hey, if I want to go to New Mexico tomorrow, I can go tomorrow. I couldn't. I was trapped by my body. And as we get older, that's going to happen more frequently. So we have to balance spontaneity, that's a wonderful thing, with some stability. And there's going to be an increasing amount of stability required as we age because of our overall health. I'm messing with sorry, it's probably very noisy, but I'm trying to mess with my microphone, which is hidden behind my shirt here. Then there is this thing that happens, the surprising joy of small things that I used to not think about. Like waking up and making a cup of coffee, sitting like this and having a cup of coffee. Used to be, I get up, I make my coffee, I get ready for work, I put it in a to-go cup, I drink it on the way to the office, and everything was kind of in medium to high speed, right? I had people to see, places to go, stuff to do, right? And now I don't. So morning coffee, it's a whole new thing. It's joyful. It's not like injecting caffeine into my body. Well, it still is sort of, but it's not the main point of it. It's a time for reflection and sometimes, I just realized if I move this, you can probably see Dottie. There's Dottie. I saw a little movement on the side of the camera. It's like, there's Dottie dog. She heard me say Dottie, so she's paying pretty close attention. And in a minute, she'll realize I'm not really talking to her. I'm talking about her. And I think you can see George. Yeah, you can see George too, can't you? You can see them both. I do have some notes here that I made. So I did do a little bit of thinking about what I wanted to talk to you about this morning. So it's the joy of small routine things that you really end up embracing and loving. And it gives a whole new perspective to life. And these are all things to consider. And everything I talk about this morning are things to consider when you're thinking about taking the leap. Whether it's a full leap like I did and just leaving back permanent home forever, or keeping the home as a home base and going out there for months at a time, whatever your flavor is. One is not more valid than the other for sure. But these are the things to consider and to think about. I've done more than one video on the costs of RVing, and unless you just do what I consider to be silly things, the cost of RV life pretty easily, hands down, is a lot less expensive than operating out of a home or an apartment, especially if you are debt-free. And I really highly recommend that it's not possible for everyone, but if you can delay your decision long enough to pay off your debts, then the big expense that's left in your life is housing. And you can cut that by half, 60%, 70%, 80%, 90%. You can really do that. Let me just give you my personal example. I bought this lot that I'm on, so I was able to do that for a fairly low amount of money, from my perspective. And I essentially pay a fee that's about $1,400. I forget exactly what it is a year, plus electricity, which is in New Mexico has some of the lowest rates in the country. A crazy month where it's I'm running the AC in here and in the RV. $90 is the biggest month I've ever had. The lowest month I've ever had was like $30. So between $30 and $90 is a month, is essentially, in that annual fee is essentially my cost to live here. If I wanted to stay here full time, year round, which I could, if I could stand the heat in the summers, that's what it would cost me. And that's a small fraction of what rent just about anywhere would cost. In my case, past 3 years I've been going to Quartzsite, and that's what I call almost free, because it's $180 for the whole season for a permit, and otherwise it's you live out there for free. This winter, I'm doing something a little different deliberately for one season. I'm staying in an RV park, and that's going to cost me $1,000 plus electric for 3 months. So I'm going to guess about $1,200 for 3 months. Still, $1,200 for 3 months is $400 a month, including utilities. Where are you going to rent a place for that? Nowhere. Nowhere. And that's only for 3 months out of the year. And Looks like I may in Eagle Nest. It's I kind of boondock in arrangement with an RV park next to it, and that costs me like $9 a day, so $270 a month when I do that. And where are you going to live for $270 a month? The answer again is nowhere in an apartment or a home. Or, in larger metropolitan areas, you can't even come close to renting a room within a house for the kind of money that I'm talking about. So when you don't have debt, your biggest cost becomes housing. And that's very controllable. And there are people that constantly move around in BLM land and chase what we call chase 70 degrees, depending on the season. And they don't really pay anything. What they essentially, their cost ends up being the fuel it takes them to move every couple of weeks is what it costs them. And that's that, if you're a van dweller or a car dweller, that's really cheap. If you got a big unit, that's something to factor in. But certainly, if you're moving to free area, Bureau of Land Management land, then, the average cost over a month isn't going to be much. You're going to move, once or twice a month. And probably, the minimum will be about probably 25 or 30 miles to be legal, because in BLM areas, you can stay 2 weeks. Generally, the rule is you move to another one at least 30 miles away. And you can bounce back and forth if you want, but you got to move 30 miles away every couple of weeks. Rules do vary. You need to check your local rules, regional rules for BLM land. But there are fixed costs. Insurance, things like auto insurance and making sure insurance on your trailer, making sure your contents are covered, liability, just like the same kind of coverage you would have in a home, or if you're smart, in an apartment, is going to follow you on the road, right? And that's something you're not going to save money on traveling. That's going to be fairly fixed. Internet, you can go very inexpensive with internet if you're not wholly dependent on it to do a job or something. You can get internet for $30 a month through a cellular service. And keep in mind, you could go to places where you don't have that signal and you don't have it at all. You can eliminate all that by, what I do is I have Starlink, and I have the residential service for $120 a month. And but it does require me to, when I move, like when I move from here to Quartzsite, I'll have to I'll have to change my residential address to Quartzsite. Right now, Starlink doesn't limit the number of times you can change your address, but it does limit some areas. There may not be room for you to change your address, so you'll have to turn on what they call roaming, and your bill's going to go up to $165 a month. But if I'm lucky, when I get down there, it'll allow me to change it to my Quartzsite address, and I'll keep the $120. That's a far cry from $30 a month, but it's satellite internet. It's reliable, and it's I've had it for years. It does very well for me. Variable costs. Fuel, obviously. The more you travel, the more it's going to cost. I've got it cut down. Starting my first trip in, let's talk a calendar year 2026, I'll be in Quartzsite at the start of that year. On March 1st, I'll travel back here, and I'll stay here for March, April, May, and most of June. And then I'll take a trip up to Eagle Nest. I'll stay there until September, maybe early October, and then I'll come down here. That is my traveling for the whole year. Other people travel constantly. that every couple of weeks or every week they're going to a new location. So they're burning a lot more fuel. Now, I have a trailer and a truck. Do I burn fuel when I'm here? Absolutely. But it's no different from when you used to live at home. I mean, I drive to the grocery store, I do errands, but it isn't that expensive. It's not that far to go to the grocery store. It doesn't cost me that much. And I'm not pulling that trailer, so I'm not getting 10 miles or 9 or 10 miles to the gallon. I'm not pulling the trailer. I'm getting like 20 miles to the gallon, 18 to 20. It really this isn't about being cheap. I mean, I know that one of the most famous RV channels is Cheap RV Living, and that's how, the brand that got Bob Wells fueled and made him an icon of this lifestyle. But there are a lot of connotations with the word cheap, and I think it's more about being deliberate with how you spend your money. And I'm not cheap. I can be extravagant, but I'm very deliberate about where I'm extravagant, right? I'm not extravagant in as far as the cost of this home base and casita, compared to the other options there are for exactly the same thing, this is very much on the lower end. It was a deliberate choice to be on the lower end of that and save money there. So if you could see behind me, that's my desk. I have very expensive, thousands of dollars worth of computer and camera equipment and sound equipment. That's where I choose to be pretty extravagant. So I'm very deliberate on how I spend my money. The last thing I want to talk about is how you need to redefine community. What do I mean by that? Fancy term, right? Redefining community. What does that mean? Where you're living now, if you're not a full-time RVer, where you're living now, that is your community. And depending on who you are and how you interact with the world, that could look, it could look different for different people, right? Some people are really hardwired into their community. They're, maybe members of the school board. They're active in various things in the community, and they're known by many, many people, and they're super active in the community. All the way to the other end of the spectrum, there are people that, just go to hardly know anyone, hardly know their neighbors, spend most of their time at home, maybe with family. And I'm not making any value judgment on either one of those, but those are the two opposite ends of the spectrum. And both those things are potentially going to look very different when you put your home on wheels and you move away from that familiar place. Now, if I just want to be sort of isolated and I don't get involved in the community very much, and I'm retiring with my wife or with me, my dog, and my cat, you could have a very satisfying life moving from place to place, not necessarily going out of your way to engage in communities that you go through. Especially if you're the type that's going to move every couple of weeks, that's really hard to do. If you're like me, it's different. And I have different desires about community. I want to be a part of the community that I'm in everywhere that I live. And it's one of the reasons I've naturally gravitated to only really 3 places. Eagle Nest, which is in the mountains in northern New Mexico, Artesia, which is in southeastern New Mexico, and Quartzsite, which is in southwestern Arizona. 3 communities. And generally, the way, I wish I could say I planned this, but I didn't. But especially Eagle Nest is the best. Well, Eagle Nest and Quartzsite are the best examples of this. Artesia, not so much because I'm new here, but it's growing. Is being a YouTuber and having a lot of my content about original intent was just come with me and run errands, but I end up running these errands in these small communities. I end up, as a side benefit, promoting those local businesses. And the local businesses get pretty excited about that. They like it. You know, they maybe when they first meet you and you ask, hey, can I film in your store? And they begrudgingly maybe say, yeah, I guess so. I guess it's okay. And they're not that excited. They start getting excited next week when people come in saying, hey, I'm here. I Travels with Dottie talked about you. It Travels with Dottie. And soon they get they get clued into, hey, business is coming in because of that weird guy with the camera that was coming in. And then when I enter that store a week or two later, the greeting is totally different. Hey, Rob, how you doing? Come on over here. Here, have a free candy bar. I don't accept the free stuff, but businesses offer me free stuff all the time, but I don't take it. And some of those conversations are hard where they really want me to take this. It's not very much. It's just a little thing. I said, it's the principle of the thing, because you're excited because I have viewers that trusted me with my word on your business. And so they came into you. If I start taking gifts from businesses, there's two problems with that. One is perception. If people know that you're taking gifts from a business, it's natural not to trust you as much. The other thing is, even a small thing can give you, at least subconsciously, a sense of obligation, right? So I want, if I go, let me put it this way. I don't have negative reviews of businesses on my channel. And this is why. Because if I go into a local business and I have a terrible experience, all that happens is I don't do a video on it. I don't say anything, right? There are lots of avenues for people to give negative feedback about businesses. I don't need to pile onto that on my channel. That's not what my channel is about. So is it one-sided that every business that you see is going to be positive? Yeah, it is. It is, because it's like I don't want to be a negative space. The same thing with products. If I have a product that I buy that is terrible, I may mention something in passing, but I don't feature it on a video really. And that's the other reason I don't do. I used to in the beginning, and I'd say the beginning wasn't that long ago. When I started earning money, it was only about 3 years ago. You'll get emails saying, hey, I'll send you a free widget if you, and you can keep the widget if you do a review on it in an unboxing or whatever on your channel. So I said yes to a few of those. And every time that I did that, I got very few views, even from subscribers on those videos. And I got the feeling people really didn't like that. And I wasn't feeling really good about it because these mostly were products that I'd never heard of before. I had no experience with. And I could only endorse what I saw in that very small window when you first get the product. And really, when you think about it, how useful is that? When things go wrong, they usually don't happen in that first 24 hours. Things wear out and break, conveniently often right after the warranty runs out. So the only time I would do it now would be, I think, through a sponsorship where I have a product that I'm very familiar with, that I've used long-term, that I really believe in. And basically the way that would work is the beginning of a video like this, I'd say, hey, today's video is sponsored by Apple. When that'll never happen, trust me. Apple doesn't do with any creators. But let's say, and I have all these Apple products. I've been using iPhones for 10 years. I would speak really confidently and positively about my experience with iPhones, because I have long-term experience with it. I feel good about it. You can trust me. But I wouldn't take a sponsorship from a company that I didn't have that kind of experience with. Anyway, I'm getting off topic again. Getting involved in community, like I got off topic talking about my YouTube channel. And Eagle Nest went from business owners taking notice to people that are really involved in the governance of the community taking notice, and that led to me. There's a local visitor center museum right in town that I always found that was intriguing, and I got connected with someone on the board of directors from there, and one thing led to another, and I became the guy that mans the museum on Saturdays all summer long. And that was an amazing thing that really got me wired into the community. And I feel really that I'm a part, I'm not a resident, but I really feel like I'm a significant part of the Eagle Nest community. And many people that live there feel that it's mutual. They feel that same way about me, and that feels really good. I'm not as deep into quartzsite as that. Granted, I've been going to quartzsite longer, but many of the businesses there, especially the smaller ones that I really love and I frequent, brighten up when they see me walk in for the season because they know they're going to get a video and they know they're going to get business. So the reception I get from people in the community that know me now, it's, again, I feel at home. I feel like, that TV series Cheers, where Norm walks in and everyone goes, Norm, right? That's how it feels often when you're recognized and people give you a smile and really send you the message, I appreciate you and what you do. To me, that is everything that I want in that word we call community. And I found I have it just through luck and circumstance of my YouTube channel and what I love to do. I found more connection to community here than most places that I've lived. There are exceptions, like when I lived in Austin, I was heavy into the volunteer fire department. I was on the board of a nonprofit. There was all sorts of things that I did there that really tied me into that Austin community. But other places I've lived in, I've been felt more of a separation from the community. Dallas, I was in Dallas for 10 years, and I really didn't feel all that woven into that community. Maybe because it was so big. It's a big place. But anyway, that I thought you'd enjoy talking about those kind of random topics about my thoughts on being a full-time retired RVer. I love it. I think it's in coming up on December 1st, 4 years. Kind of 1, 2, 3, 4 years. 4 years retired. And the day after I retired, I had the retirement party. I went home. I woke up the next day. I hooked up the trailer and I left. That quick. It was December 1st. I think my last day was November 30th. I'm not sure. I'd have to look at the exact date. But for all intents and purposes, we'll call it December 1st. I was on the road. And by the way, I did have a YouTube channel. I had a YouTube channel since like 2008, I think, 2008 or 2009, because I did things for work on it. I had a little business where I did videography. And so I utilized YouTube quite a bit, but didn't have any growth or anything. I had, I think, 60 subscribers on that December 1st day, 60. And I think 59 of them were relatives. the whole, and so I started doing, I said, I'm going to change my YouTube channel to my retirement RV channel, not thinking about growing it or making money. I wanted my family to see what I was doing. That's the other thing. People are going to, when you do this, people are going to be a little worried about you. They're going to be, you sure you want to do that? That doesn't sound right. That sounds like that might be one, dangerous or risky, but not that my family said those things. I just was preemptively here. If you want to know where I am and what I'm doing, you can go to my channel and you can see these little videos. And it grew from, so 4 years ago, it grew from 60 to, where am I right now, guys? How many subscribers? And oh, by the way, the average video got about 30 views. So right now we are at up 12,346 subscribers, and my average video view for a normal video is about 1,100 views versus like 30 or 60. Well, I tell you, if you're starting a channel and you're putting out content and you're getting 10 views, 20 views, 50 views, and you're getting excited at 100 views, don't let that discourage you. All I did was stick with it. I just put my head down and didn't follow a lot of the, if you want advice, go on YouTube, and there's every manner of different kinds of advice on how to do it right and what you're doing wrong. To me, I just did what my gut instincts told me to do. And, you know, just for perspective, if you're not sure, 12,000 subscribers and 1,000 views per video is not big in YouTube land. It's not big. It's a respectable small channel is what I am. Now, big channels, you know, there are channels that I watch that have, instead of 12,000, they have 20 million. There's two of them that have over 20 million subscribers, and they get, you know, they easily get 1 million views on a video. So that's the other end of the spectrum, and there's everything in between. And you can, the other thing, the fame and fortune on YouTube, your fortunes can change very quickly. People go along and their YouTube channel grows and grows and grows, and they're getting to a certain income level every month, and they're enjoying it, and boom, suddenly interest drops off, and boom, we're less than half of what we were making before, and going, what did I do? You didn't do anything, probably. You just probably kept doing, like, I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing, and I've got a steady increase of interest in the channel. But someday people are going to go, pfft, I'm not interested in that anymore. I'm interested in that over here. And my views will go bloop. And it won't be my fault. But it'll be my fault if I have the expectation that that's never going to happen to me. Of course it's going to happen to me. It could happen next week, next year, who knows. But expectations are resentments under construction. And I'm not going to explain that further. I speculate in the comments about what I mean by the phrase. It's probably my favorite phrase. Expectations are resentments under construction. And I will not take credit for making that up. That was told to me years ago. I didn't make it up, but I took it to heart. Anyway, take care, and I will see you again tomorrow. I promise.